A school trip ended tragically near Jordan's Dead Sea on Thursday. At least 18 people have been killed after a torrential downpour flooded the area. Many of those killed were under the age of 14, and the death toll is still expected to rise. A number of families picnicking in the popular destination were also among the dead and injured, according to rescuers, who say it's one of the worst disasters the kingdom has witnessed in years.
There was a school trip of 37 female and male students with 7 supervisors. The water rose very quickly and was very powerful in this area. There were people who ended up in the water, and there were other people who managed to reach rocks and save themselves.
A father of one of the school children who survived said many of the students were swept to the shores of the Dead Sea, and that the intensity of the floods made it impossible for teachers to save all the students. According to Jordan's Prime Minister, school trips to the region had been temporarily banned due to bad weather, and that the school appears to have broken regulations. He's pledged to launch an investigation.
Investigators turned to Florida to find out who's behind the suspicious packages.
Techs lead a Wall Street comeback, but Alphabet and Amazon disappoint.
A flash flood claims young lives in Jordan.
As the investigation into bombs sent to high-profile critics of President Trump intensifies, the FBI Thursday warning that there could be more out there.
We continue to advise the American public to remain vigilant, as it does remain possible further packages have been or could be mailed.
A source tells Reuters that the probe has zeroed in on Florida and that all the packages are believed to have gone through the U.S. postal system. Former Vice President Joe Biden and Robert De Niro, a vocal critic of the president, the latest intended recipients of explosive devices, similar to those sent this week to President Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, CNN, and billionaire George Soros. Reuters' Mark Hosenball is reporting on the investigation.
The bombs in the packages were of similar design. As I understand it, the design was pretty primitive, pretty crude. This is the type of design that's been on the internet and in radical literature for literally years.
Any guy that can do a body slam, he's my kind.
Leading Democrats called the would-be bomb attacks a dangerous outgrowth of coarsening political rhetoric promoted by President Trump. Trump at first tried to strike a civil tone at a rally on Wednesday, but that didn't last long. In a tweet Thursday morning, Trump blamed the media for stirring up grievances. Quote, "A very big part of the anger we see today in our society is caused by the purposely false and inaccurate reporting of the mainstream media that I refer to as fake news. It has gotten so bad and hateful that it is beyond description. Some right-wing pundits are calling the bombs fake news."
Some of Trump's supporters, I think, are trying to muddy the waters by somehow suggesting this is a quote-unquote false flag operation to somehow damage Trump and help the Democrats.
Would you describe this as something that was a hoax, or should people really be taking this seriously?
This is something that should be taken seriously.
The bomb threats coming less than 2 weeks before the contentious midterm elections, jolting a nation divided by partisan rancor. None of the 10 devices exploded, and the FBI said the white powder in the envelopes was not a biological threat.
A rebound in tech stocks Thursday, helping to press the pause button on a massive slide in global markets. The Dow rebounding 401 points to return back into positive territory for the year. A reversal in the tech-heavy Nasdaq was even more stunning, up nearly 3%, one day after its biggest drop in 7 years. But disappointing results after the markets closed could take some air out of investor enthusiasm. Amazon not only missed quarterly sales estimates, but it issued guidance for the key holiday shopping quarter that was below analyst forecasts, sending the stock lower in after-hours trade. It was a similar story with Google parent Alphabet. Sales came in below expectations, and rising expenses are starting to take a toll on the company's financials. Alphabet is facing an uptick in spending tied to increasing regulatory scrutiny of the use of consumer data. The results knocked Alphabet's stock lower, and Facebook, which faces similar concerns of data privacy, took a hit as well.
The U.S. military could soon send up to 1,000 active duty troops to the U.S.-Mexico border on orders from President Trump as a caravan of Central American migrants make their way north. In a tweet Thursday, Trump, who has railed against the caravan for days, said, "I am bringing out the military for this national emergency," a move sure to stoke divisions over immigration as Americans prepare to vote in next month's elections.
We will never back down.
A U.S. official told Reuters the military is examining a request from the Department of Homeland Security for 800 to 1,000 troops who would help Border Patrol agents prevent the Central American migrants from reaching the United States. The troops would join more than 2,000 National Guard troops already on the border, assisting border agents with logistics and infrastructure. Yagana Turbati has the latest.
U.S. troops aren't actually allowed to enforce the law outside of military bases. This is sort of long-standing U.S. principle. And so the U.S. troops are quite limited in what they can actually do at the border. And the current National Guard deployment at the U.S. border has been doing things on the back end, sort of logistical help. And so the experts that we've talked to say that this is probably similar to what any new troops would be doing.
Thousands of Central Americans have been streaming through Mexico in recent days, many seeking to escape violence, poverty, and government corruption in countries such as Honduras and El Salvador. Trump has vowed to pull back millions of dollars in aid to Central American nations if the migrants are not stopped.
Two sources have told Reuters that CIA Director Gina Haspel has heard an audio recording of the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Haspel arrived in Turkey Monday as part of a fact-finding mission into the dissident's murder. Reuters was told that an audio recording existed of what happened inside the Saudi consulate on October 2nd. It's also been widely reported in the Turkish media, with some revealing gruesome details of the journalist's torture and interrogation. Many were surprised that it wasn't mentioned by Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan. Earlier this week, he gave a detailed address to Parliament on their investigation into the killing. Representatives of the CIA and Turkish intelligence have declined to comment on Haspel's review of the recording. Turkey's foreign minister saying Thursday that Ankara had no intention of taking the case to an international court, but that he would share information if an international inquiry were launched. Turkish officials are dismissing the line that rogue operatives carried out the killing. They're calling for the kingdom to punish those who not just carried it out, but also ordered it. At first, Saudi Arabia denied anything happened and then changed their explanation multiple times. State TV now reporting that the country's public prosecutor says the murder was premeditated. Saudi's de facto ruler, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, has denied any prior knowledge of the murder, a position doubted by many US and Western officials. The question is whether this audio recording provides evidence that links the killing to the top.
This investment conference in Saudi Arabia has been something of a PR disaster as big names from Silicon Valley and politics boycott over the Khashoggi crisis. But the conference that was supposed to showcase the kingdom's green and high-tech future hasn't been abandoned by the opposite side of the spectrum. Saudi's old friend, big oil. Reuters energy editor Dmitry Zanikov.
This forum was meant to be about high-tech robots and all that stuff, and instead we're seeing that more than three-fifths of deals that are being signed are about the good old oil and petrochemicals and refined products, etc. And some of those deals are not even new. So it speaks volumes about the conference taking Saudi back to where they were a couple of years ago. And even the Saudi energy minister, Farid Al-Sharaa, who is very soft-spoken, usually very careful. Yesterday he said that, yes, we are in a crisis of sorts.
Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has made diversifying away from oil a central talking point of his reform agenda. He wants the kingdom to end its addiction to the black gold. But of the $50 billion in deals signed at this conference, $30 billion went straight to the national oil corporation, Saudi Aramco, seen here. That's not to say other industries won't return in time. Many of those that officially boycotted still sent mid-level representatives. It's too big a market to ignore. Even an adversary might look to bury the hatchet.
Prince Mohammed bin Salman said that Qatar economy has been growing quite strongly and will continue growing. Well, that took a lot of people by surprise, because for the past year he has either refused to comment on Qatar altogether or said that they are sponsors of terrorism, which Doha has denied. So to many people it signaled that some settlement might be in the making.
The United States has been pressuring Saudi and Qatar to make nice for unity's sake against Iran.
And right here behind me on the other side of the channel, we have the Christiania, the famous free town of Copenhagen, where you can buy drugs for recreational use.
From Friday, it won't just be hippies getting a slice of the action. Copenhagen's hosting Europe's first cannabis-related share sale. Steinocare makes cannabis oil for medical purposes. It comes to market amid a global frenzy over marijuana stocks. Liberalisation in Canada and elsewhere sparking a rush to get in on legal businesses. And Denmark looks like fertile ground. Reuters correspondent Jakob Grønholdt Pedersen is there.
Denmark is one of the few countries in Europe to allow local production of cannabis, and that's exactly what Steinocare is trying to do. They're trying to raise money to build a production plant in Jutland.
Investors smell serious money. Share prices and valuations for US cannabis firms soaring. Now no one knows how big this market could get. But in the US, legal sales of cannabis are forecast to triple to $16 billion by 2020.
Americans may be losing their taste for this stuff. The world's biggest brewer says sales of Budweiser and other beers sliding in the US. And that spells trouble for AB InBev. Third quarter core profit up far less than expected for the Belgium-based giant. Reuters' Phil Blenkinsop is following the story.
In the case of the United States, beer sales in general have been declining. In the case of AB InBev, its main beers, which are Budweiser and Bud Light, have been losing out to craft lagers for the past decade or so. In the case of Brazil and the case of South Africa, there are issues related to consumer confidence there. For example, disposable income may be being under pressure, people less able to, whether it be to buy beer or at least to buy the more expensive beers with the higher margins.
That comes as the company battles to trim a $100 billion debt pile it racked up buying rival SAB Miller in 2016. Perhaps no surprise then that Thursday saw AB InBev slash its dividend in half. $4 billion originally destined for shareholders, now freed up to pay down the debts.
This is a unique opportunity to see these outfits, and of course His Royal Highness's uniform as well, worn on such a special day and actually in the surroundings where they were worn here at Windsor Castle. But they'll also get to see right up close the beauty of this fantastic embroidery. It's so delicate, it meanders around the edge of the veil like a wildflower meadow, and of course representing the 53 countries of the Commonwealth, and so very much referencing their Royal Highness's role, as indeed they are now right on tour in the Commonwealth as we speak.